I love watching everybody throw their introduction in the chat. So I appreciate you suggesting that. It's always great to see not just where you all work, but what do you guys do? It's so important and impactful. I mean, just the organizations that I'm seeing you list is just it's really awesome. All of the work that everybody does when it comes to nonprofit and really, like Abby said, we love our partnership with NAM here at Best Care EAP. And so I'm very happy to be here. Again, my name is Kim Hurst, and today we are talking about going from BFF. I don't know, is that even still an acronym we use? I don't know. This may need a little bit of a refresher from 2000. 19 to now 2021. But going from a different stage per se, whether it be peer to now manager or leader. Now, you may not all have done a recent transition such as that. You may know somebody that has, you may be managing people that are going through transitions like that. Whatever your role, definitely have that mindset of your perspective on how you can utilize this information in your obviously particular situation. But when it comes to the conversation that the wording that I'll be using and saying you, really kind of referring to somebody that may be newer in a management role, or even just a great refresher for some of us that haven't had some of those opportunities for training and development since becoming a leader. I know that's definitely difficult when it comes to any organization in any industry, having that right time to go and put new leaders into the right atmosphere and give them the tools and the resources necessary to help them ease that transition. So I know a lot of times, you're great at what you do, have the technical skills and abilities and do a great job in your current role. And that's how people get obviously moving up the chain. And just because we're good at what we do doesn't always mean we're going to make the best leader or the best manager sometimes. And so as we go through the conversation today, hopefully you'll find a few tidbits as you can kind of pick out and relate to you. But at the same time, I have amazing individuals here with us today. As I'm seeing you guys introduce yourself, you have varied backgrounds and experiences, and I want to hear from you guys too. So if there's anything that you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to throw a comment in the chat. You can always unmute if you'd like, if you're able to do that. Or even, just a question. I'll keep an eye on it, and Abby's going to help me keep an eye on it too. So definitely exciting time here in terms of a new year. I know it's been a rough last year, and 10 to 12 months, kind of depending on when we say it's kind of started for us. But hopefully this helps get us all energized to really kind of kick the year off with a bang and do what we can to be great leaders in our organizations and help those that we work with be great leaders. So just to give you a little bit about myself and my background and experience, I've been with EAP since late 2019 in the role as a training consultant here. So work with our training team. So you probably recognize the name Dave Decken if you've been with us for other trainings, or Chris Johnson. Robin Burnett is our education services team manager. And so we love being able to bring resources about for all of our partner organizations. Now, again, this last year that's been so challenging, there's a lot of content that we have put out and released, and I'll share that with you on our website that anybody can access. You don't have to be a client, partner, or member. So As we get into today, again, prior to coming to Best Care, my background is in human resource management, general management, and training and development, organizational development type of operations. And so when it comes to one of the things that I've seen in my background, again, we haven't given the right time and resources to truly help our leaders. Let's see. I see a question from Sharon. Sharon, your question, seeing more of a shift in the organizations from a hierarchical management structure to more of a leadership team approach. How does that impact some of the issues that you'll be talking about? I think that's a great question. I'll address that now as opposed to getting into it as we talk. But from what I'm seeing and working with our different partners, I really see more of that team approach. We, again, as we evolve in different organizations, it really depends on the organization and the industry that I've seen. But again, some will continue to have kind of that old school hierarchical, but I am really seeing more of that that leadership team approach. And so I love that question because we will talk about how the approach and what we can do, not just as individuals, but as a team will hopefully come through a little bit today. So great question. All right, so as we get going into the conversation today, love to start off with a quote. This quote, and I love it because it's just such a great reminder of the mindset and attitude that we need to have as leaders. But it says, anyone who wants to lead the orchestra must turn his back on the crowd. Now, that being said, we don't necessarily avoid and forget where we've come from the level that now we are in as a leader or a manager once we've transitioned, but we can't be one of the crowd anymore. We have to realize our role and that responsibility, and really just kind of the discipline that comes with it when it comes to how that changes for me and really everybody that I work with, my friends at work. I think I've hit a button. Abby, I'm seeing something on my screen. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yep, it just went away.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. So one of the interesting things as we start talking about becoming a new leader and some of those challenges that we face, not to throw this research out there to discourage anybody, but there has been a recent research conducted by a leadership development firm in Manchester. I'm sorry, not in Manchester, Manchester Incorporated, and it revealed that 40% of first-time managers really have a difficult time their first 18 months on the job and potentially end up failing in that new role as a leader. But here's the thing, 82% of the time, it's because these otherwise very smart, capable, reliable people aren't able to make that transition mentally, emotionally, from coworker to leader. It's not the same situation anymore. So hopefully this will help anybody that's made that transition again recently, or working with others who have made that transition to help us explore some of the different shifts that need to be made when it goes from BFF to boss. So as we talk today, really kind of the agenda and the objectives that we're looking at is around, again, a reminder, refresher of that foundation of management and what that manager's role or leader's role in an organization is. And so just in general, what it really means to us to be a leader. What you and your coworkers might be feeling. So if you're recently transitioning right now, or you can kind of think back in terms of if you have transitioned, what you felt, what you went through, some of the difficulties, or if you're leading anybody going through that now. Self-defeating responses that you might be experiencing. There's a lot of those doubt and really just kind of lack of self-confidence or self-esteem sometimes when it comes to knowing the right things to do in our new role. Going into some core leadership strategies as well, and then we'll just kind of breeze through some pitfalls that we want to make sure and avoid. Just a quick reminder at the end of what Best Care EAP is and how you guys can utilize us even if you're not a partner. So I, again, definitely want to make sure that you guys speak up. So any questions, like you said, throw those out there as we go through the conversation today. So here's just our kind of zeroing in as what we've learned so far from being a manager, what that foundation of management is. And so as we go to work, our goal is really to work with and through people to achieve our organization's goals, right? And so working with each other, and now as a leader, we need to work through people and not just getting the results, but efficiently, ethically, effectively, of course. And so really achieving those maximum results is going to require our people coming to work every day and giving their best. And so we know we can't make people do things. So employees will do this to the extent that they're competent and engaged and again, enthusiastic, inspired, motivated. It's not our job to necessarily always motivate, but not kill motivation that they already have sometimes. So in that manager's role that we have, again, what do you need to do every day to really make your company great? That's really our job. Know what needs to be done most. What's that priority? What are really kind of those top-notch essential duties, functions, expectations to help our team and our organization be successful. So as we continue the manager's role, we are responsible for work only other people can do. Now, here's kind of that double-edged sword when it comes to work that we were doing. Now we're responsible for work that we need to allow others to do. We can't always necessarily continue the same work that we were doing. Again, depends on the role and your situation. But when it comes to our responsibility, we are now responsible for things that other people are doing. That definitely changes things when it comes to the new power that we have. You now have the ability or the power to discipline and really recognize, reward, whatever the case may be in terms of how we're interacting with our teams, those individuals as former coworkers. And so it's definitely a different mindset that we need to be in when it comes to what has changed and what hasn't, because our role is different and we can't pretend that it is not changing how we interact with people that were previously our peers. All right, so what our former coworkers might be feeling is really important, because when it comes to how we interact, of course, we need to be aware and have that emotional intelligence and social awareness of really what they're going through right now, what they might be feeling. And so, when we've talked to individuals in these positions, and a lot of the research says that there's great happiness, especially if they have been a champion of yours, a peer, a friend per se, as a coworker. They're happy for you. They see that your hard work and your talent has been rewarded, and they want to be there and support, and are really excited about that transition for you. Anger sometimes because maybe they were gunning for the same job that you were, and now they might even feel a little bit of resentment because you were chosen over them. Anxiety, this one's definitely a prevalent feeling right now just because of our current situation. But when it comes to constant change in the work environment, people are afraid of things that they're uncertain about, and they are fearful potentially of how things might change for them and the impact that it might have. Or, maybe they fear that you might abuse new power or mishandle things. They're, again, afraid of that unknown. Hope, that's definitely, I'm hopeful that more of the positive feelings will come out, but they believed your former relationship with them would transfer and translate into potential sometimes better treatment or preferential treatment, or just, again, knowing how you really handle things. They're hopeful potentially to see positive change. And maybe indifference, they might just not really care and believe their circumstances aren't going to be affected or changed based on any kind of transition that's currently going on. So, of course, a lot of different feelings when it comes to what you might be feeling as you've made this transition, or a new manager might be feeling. But there's definitely a mixture of emotions when it comes to that transition from individual contributor to leader. And so this might include pride, for obvious reasons. Their talent and effort has been rewarded, and really just shows that hard work does pay off. Sometimes the source of their anxiety is clear because, again, we are unsure what's truly going to change, how things are going to change, and if I'm going to be able to be successful in my new role. And sometimes fear, fear of failure. I'm not sure, again, about the ability to be successful with new expectations and duties that I have. So a lot of feelings going on, and I think that's really important. We do a lot of programs here at EAP around emotional intelligence and having not only that self-awareness of really what I'm feeling and what's going on right now, but how to manage those emotions. And of course, go into that social kind of understanding and social awareness of really what other people are going through right now as well. So, a lot of times we see that that apprehension that new managers are facing are really kind of torn between different sets of social expectations. So again, because of that shared history with former coworkers, they expect their newly promoted leaders to be sensitive to their needs and concerns. But because they're now members of the management team, superiors expect novice leaders to be really pursuing the company's best interest. And so, just a lot of different thoughts and feelings going on in terms of, where I'm at, what I've experienced, and that kind of thing. Now, if anybody's gone through this transition or role, I'd be curious to hear from you guys. If you want to share some thoughts in the chat, if you've felt any of these things from a mixture of pride and anxiety and, obviously happiness and success. But were there different proportions? Did one outweigh the other? Was it mostly pride, mostly anxiety? Anything that you know of that may have specifically motivated those things other than the things that I've already mentioned. I would be curious to hear if anybody has anything to share. I'll share just a little bit of my background in terms of kind of my anxiety. When I was the first leadership role I was ever given, I was a teller at a credit union, and I was very young. I started in a teller role when I was 16, and so by the time I was in college, I was weekend supervisor, closing supervisor, and different responsibilities were put on my plate. But my biggest apprehension was really the credibility that I would have with my individual peers, but not just my peers, my members and customers due to my age. I had a lot of pushback previously in terms of, I want to talk to somebody else just based on you're new, I don't feel comfortable with somebody that's necessarily so young telling me that this is the only way to go. They take it from somebody else because they were of a more experienced age. So I don't see any comments coming in, but hopefully you're kind of pondering that when it comes to, maybe how you felt, if you have experienced that, or being cognizant of talking with any of your teams that you may have see this transition happening in. Awesome, thanks. She said, felt that anxiety stepping in as program manager, felt the same way. I'm younger than everyone I currently manage. That's definitely difficult. Definitely. Well, I appreciate your thoughts and comments. So when it comes to those anxieties, again, sometimes we have a lot of that self-defeating kind of responses in mind. And so some of these thoughts are really natural responses as a human being to how we react to those self-defeating responses. So there's, of course, effective and ineffective ways that we might be coping with this anxiety. And so these are obviously some of the ineffective ways. But anxiety about not seeming managerial per se enough, or confusion concerning discomfort with your new role, it really may tempt people to over supervise or micromanage your former coworkers, because now you're really unsure of how much, how little, right, when it comes to what I really need to do now. Especially if you didn't feel the individual that was in the role prior was effective in your opinion. So there's a lot of anxiety about coming across as bossy, or taking charge and now really overstepping. So that may even tempt you to under supervise, to not want to lead and manage in certain ways because you don't want to step on any toes. The next one, it really kind of anxiety about taking sides might tempt you to be evasive or tell both sides what they want to hear. So that prevaricating behavior where, yeah, I'm still relating to my coworkers and acting as if I'm a peer, but then I'm now in the air of management telling them what they want to hear. And we can really get ourselves in trouble with that very quickly when it comes to how we are perceived then in terms of playing both sides and not being fair. So those are some of the what not to do's, right? The ineffective ways when it comes to how we respond to that anxiety that we may be experiencing. So, what do we do instead? We have some really amazing strategies for ways that we can have a great transition into this role. And so, more than anything, is really going to be all about being ourselves. So don't abandon your beliefs and become a radically different person. Just because you're in a new role doesn't mean that you're going to have to change the way you behave. You may have to change some of the things that you do, but you don't necessarily have to change really your natural instinct when it comes to who you are. And I love this little quote: "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken." And that's one of the reasons that you have now gotten this role, because of who you are and what you believe in and what you do. One of the things that we have to make sure and do is weighing other factors when it comes to job related decisions. What else do I need to keep in mind? Not just having that perspective of where I was thinking and considering in my previous roles, but what else is going to be impacted? Have that bigger picture, that broader view. And again, we need to have different visions and goals in those new leadership roles. And so those are definitely conversations that we need to have to make sure that we're really aware of what all is necessary to keep in mind when making some of these decisions. Starting slow. This one is really important. I've seen a lot of new managers rush in and start making all sorts of changes. And, I think that's really difficult for employees, as they get so concerned when somebody comes in because they think their whole world is going to be rocked because of what previous leaders have done. But don't fall for that fallacy that you have to be that hard charging leader from the get-go. You're much better off waiting to get a feel for your job and really kind of understanding those expectations before implementing anything new. So kind of, take it slow. There may be some things that may need to change sooner than later, but there's a lot of things that we have to do first before we go in hard charging. This is important in any of the roles that we're in, but when it comes to how we behave, what we need, again, is that confidence, right? And although we're going to want to, take our time and feel our way along at first, it's really critical that we demonstrate to our teams and our new employees that I am sure about myself and I am confident in the ability to do a good job now. Again, we've been chosen in this role for a reason. We have been promoted for our talent, our skills, our abilities, our knowledge, our experience, and make sure that you don't lose sight of that based on those anxieties and those self-defeating responses that come into play. So one of the main things to do when we're able to do this is make sure that if you know what will work when somebody comes to you or they have a problem, if you know the solution, if you know what will work, act on it. Don't hesitate. Don't second guess yourself. You've been working in this area. You have those skills and abilities. Act on it. Don't hesitate. If you're not sure, make sure and get the facts, analyze the situation, and get others' input needed, if needed first, and then make a solid decision. What you really don't want to do is let decisions slide too long or appear indecisive before we do act. And I think that's definitely difficult when it comes to some of these things that we haven't done before. but be sure about the things that you do know. Make sure and let your teams know that, if I'm not sure, you know what, I need to verify this, but I will let you know, and be quick, be decisive once you have the facts and the necessary input from maybe other parties to make those decisions. Oops. All right, so our next one. Oh, and this one's hard because when it comes to our roles, and especially life right now in this time that we're living in, we want it now, right? We have the ability, I mean, we all have these smartphones at our fingertips that give us a lot of things right now. And so it's difficult to be patient when it comes to any transition, learning and adjusting, and really taking time for things to get settled. But again, that transition is going to take time, not just for you, but for those former coworkers or your new team. You're going to make mistakes. It's just a name of the game. We're all human. Nobody's perfect, and our coworkers will too. So the new team that we're managing, again, everybody's human. Fortunately, most mistakes aren't fatal, and nobody's ever died from being uncomfortable. And so here's the thing: we have to make sure it's okay to make mistakes. We don't overreact. We don't, give ourselves too much grief or give others too much grief. And really be graceful when it comes to how we react to some of those things. But at the same time, it's going to take time. We really need to take things slow and know that, hey, I'm not going to win everybody's trust overnight, or I'm not going to be able to do all of these things right away, but I will get there. Next one, so important. And this one's really hard right now when it comes to physical visibility. We, again, are talking a lot about social distancing when it's really all about physical distancing. And so as I talk about visibility, I want to make sure that we know there's still a lot of ways to be visible, even if we're not physically in the same place right now. So kind of keep that in mind. But when it comes to our visibility, struggling to master some of those new administrative things that we have to do and all the demands that are placed on us when it comes to a new job, a lot of managers tend to hide out in their offices in the first few weeks on the job, really just because of all of that kind of unsureness, thinking, okay, I just need to put my head down and kind of bury myself and entrench myself in the admin side of things to really understand the job. And so it is important to master some of those things, but there's a lot of reasons, and two very powerful reasons for getting out of your office and being seen. First, you're going to get to know your employees and their duties much faster by circulating through your team's work area. But it also encourages people to ask questions and engage in some of that casual conversation with you. And both of these things are really going to increase that acceptance of you as people are getting to know you in this new role. And being visible encourages people to be more productive. It's not I'm babysitting and keeping tabs on everybody, but it's just making sure everybody knows that we're here to work, and we definitely are here to support. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we're doing our jobs that we need to be focused on. So when it comes to that lack of maybe physical space, again, I'm not sure how many of you guys are working remotely or aren't in your same workspaces as we were a year ago, but there's still a lot of ways to do this. And I'll share online. We have a really awesome program that we did basically how to support our remote workers. And so we have that as a recorded webinar too that's accessible for everybody. But there's, again, we're doing Zoom. There's a lot of ways to have face-to-face, even if it's just quick check-ins, not necessarily full meetings, FaceTime, phone calls, those kinds of things. I do want to really encourage everybody, if you are working remote, use your video as much as possible. I know when it comes to training and sitting through a presentation, it's not always necessary, but when others can see your face, your nonverbal responses, again, we have less of that feeling of isolation, and then it's going to be able to connect us even more, but it has that visibility factor too. And one of the things that we've been seeing a lot right now with our client partners is really a huge shift in loneliness because of the isolation. And we've obviously had a huge shift in the need for more mental health services for our teams, because things are really rough right now. People are going through dramatic changes in their life, whether it be the work that we do, the way that we're doing it, potentially loss in my life, somebody that I'm grieving, I've potentially lost from COVID, or just issues with health in my family or other things that have been impacted due to jobs or the economy or whatever the case may be. But everybody's going through something, so we need to see each other and we need to be there for each other. So especially right now, have that visibility, and not from a micromanagement standpoint, but the more you can check in with people, especially one-on-one, the better. Having the ability to get your team together without an agenda, maybe just for something fun. If you're doing, an end of the day remote happy hour or something of that case, or early morning coffee and kind of chit chat, just to mimic what you would be doing here in the office. Try and keep those habits just as they were if you would be here physically. So definitely important when it comes to the visibility point. There are times, again, when we do need to close our doors and have that heads down, but I think it's really important that we communicate with our people when we're doing that, hey, I'm not shutting anybody out. I have X, Y, and Z that I need to accomplish for this period of time. And I really need to make sure that I have heads down time for maybe an hour. Call me if you need something, if there's anything urgent, but otherwise, I am available afterwards, or shoot me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I think when we communicate about what we're doing and not just allow people to wonder or assume that, oh, she's, she just wants to be left alone, or she doesn't want anybody to bother her, or, maybe she's just being standoffish this morning. We always jump to conclusions because we're human, and that's just kind of that natural behavior. And usually we assume the worst. Again, I don't love that that's natural behavior, but that's what we do as human beings, is assume, oh man, her door's closed, something's wrong. Gosh, I wonder if I did something wrong. So again, the more we can communicate, the better. So this one I love, it's so important, because when I had kind of a shift to any kind of leadership opportunity, I knew who my immediate leader was and my resource there, but I didn't always know other resources outside of just that leader in terms of who to go to for what, because I think that's more important than knowing everything about this new job. And none of us are going to have all the answers, especially right away as a new leader. So I think it's most important to know who to call for what, especially from an HR perspective. If you can do any kind of a quick one-on-one with your HR individual, with anybody that is a new leader, so that they can know really what that individual can help them with, or other resources throughout your organization. Again, it depends on how broad your organization is and different roles as far as the functionalities that people play. But, who would I need to talk to in accounting about this issue for my employee, or whatever the case may be when it comes to employee related, leadership related functions. What are those other resources that we need to have? So when it comes to using your boss, your leader, human resources, your leader knows that you're entering uncharted waters as a newer leader, and so they usually say, if you have any problems, if you have any questions, let me know. So don't be too proud or too afraid or hesitant to take them up on this offer. They expect it, especially the first few months, when they're going to be the most responsive to those requests for help. If you wait any longer and they're asking questions that you should have asked earlier, they're gonna wonder why you haven't asked those things yet. And of course, the more experience you get, the less likely it is that your supervisors are going to be offering that aid as often. But here's the thing. Our leaders get really busy too. And it's not that we're not important as their teams, but some of those urgent things take precedence sometimes. And so people aren't always at the forefront. So same way that goes for your leader as it is with your people, people aren't always going to be asking you what you need. You have to speak up. And so I tell new employees that all the time, whether you're a new leader or just a new employee, especially for new leaders, your employees are sometimes hesitant to speak up, especially if they're new. And so make sure to offer that help on a regular basis, but we have to own our own employment. So as any new individual in a role or a leadership position, or any new employee in any new organization, I have to own my experience and ask for help when I need it, speak up, make sure that they don't forget, hey, we talked about this the other day. I know you've been busy, but just want to make sure that that's still on your radar. Our leaders and our managers really need that kind of support because, again, all of the things that they have going on too sometimes take precedence. Those fires that they're off putting out, they're sometimes overshadowing the needs of our people, and we don't want to forget that. So when it comes to our HR people, and I'm not focused on this because I am an HR person by experience, but they're really going to be your best ally at helping you succeed, because in every step of your employees process, when it comes to interviewing and onboarding and all of the different legal ramifications, that's their job, that's their specific experience and what they're there to help you with. So they can help you work on those interviewing skills or give you tips for the right questions to ask to get the right people on the bus. Really do a better job with helping orient your new hires and getting them up to speed when it comes to onboarding. Again, depends on what your onboarding process looks like. Larger organizations typically have more resources and availability for helping with those things. But one of the biggest things, I think, especially as a new manager, is understanding the legal ramifications of some of the things that I may or may not truly understand right away. So, wage and hour laws, EEOC guidelines, health and safety regulations, their knowledge and experience with these things could save your career, the organization, when it comes to any mistakes that we might make that are very critical and could lead to a lawsuit. Now, I'm not saying that to be scary, but I'm saying that to make sure and ask if you're not sure. When it comes to those things, don't just assume. Use your resources when it comes to your HR person. Your handbook is definitely a great Bible, I would say, for a new manager if you have an employee handbook. But of course, performance reviews, coaching, all of that performance management piece, really, really critical to help develop and grow your employees. Uh, Helping with corrective actions. That's something that none of us enjoy doing. Conflict isn't fun, but that's what they're there to assist with. Um, Again, for smaller organizations, that's one of the things that we can consult with from best care standpoint in terms of how to deal with some of these difficult situations if we've not done them before. And really just kind of general guidance and support. They can be helpful with leading you when you're not sure what to do. Or, if you have any other issues that you're not comfortable taking to your leader. So make sure that you are comfortable there using those resources. You know who they are, you've been introduced to them. If you haven't, make those introductions yourself. Oh goodness, expectations, you guys. Probably the most important word for any leader is understanding the expectations, not just of you and your job, but being able to clarify the expectations that you have of your team. It's necessary for that to work both ways, for that smooth employment, no matter if you're new in a leadership role or not. One of the most, I would say, recurring issue when it comes to employee relations issues that I've seen on a regular basis is employees coming to me having issue with either their boss or their team or a specific situation because of miscommunication or misunderstanding when it comes to their expectations. Well, I thought it meant this on the job description, or I understood it as this. Review your job description with your teams, with your own manager. Make sure that you know what is truly expected of you. Review the goals that you have for you so that your employees know what's important to you, what's priority, and obviously review goals that they have set for themselves. But discuss those expectations, consistently, because they change very quickly. And so, especially right now over this last year, that's one of the biggest things that we've seen is so many changes that, gosh, I don't even know what I need to work on today because our priorities have shifted so much in the last 12 months, especially from a healthcare perspective, as we work with our healthcare partners. What are we even focused on right now, because we've had all of these rules and process changes. So keep that communication flowing. If you're getting information from the top down that's changing your guidance, you make sure and pass that information along. But again, make sure that you know that they understand that expectation. Make sure that you can have them repeat back to you, or explain in their own words after you have set an expectation. This is what we are looking to do, right? Just make sure that we're both in agreement with what we've discussed. So a lot of important things there, especially when it comes to expectation and using your resources, but it's going to take time. Make sure that you give yourself grace, give your teams grace. So finally, there's some pitfalls that we need to, make sure of, and especially when it comes to if your new employees are potentially friends you were close with as a former coworker, make sure that you meet with those people individually at work or outside of work to talk about how your relationship is really likely to change, and how, your friendship is important to them, but at the same time that, things are going to have to change in order for you to be a good leader. Everybody's going to need equal opportunity, and they're going to be held accountable for the same expectations. All of those things when it comes to how that relationship may change. And, some managers have been able to keep those relationships and maintain those friendships with coworkers by really kind of setting those clear boundaries. When we are here, we're work focused. We can still hang out and have fun and be friends outside of work. But as soon as we, come to work, what happens on the job stays on the job, and, what happens at home stays at home. So, kind of keep that in mind if you've ever been in that situation, or, see anybody that you might lead be going through that as well. All right. So the 9 pitfalls, of course, we talked about expectations. So, not setting clear goals, having people really not understand what's required of them. And I think it's really important because when you sit down to have any kind of coaching session or review, if they're not sure what they're going to be reviewed upon or coached on, they're not steered in the right direction. So again, we have to start with those things truly being clear. And so you need to understand as well what their goals are for themselves in the future. Maybe their vision can flow into things that are going to be really required of you as your role goes changes and transitions in your new role. So make sure that you understand them, help set new goals if they don't have specific goals set right now, by learning about their strengths and areas of opportunity on, really what they want to work on and help develop. If it's not a clear strategic type of goal, if it's more of a personal development type of goal. So, and one of our other pitfalls, we talked about delegating. A lot of times, some surveys actually indicate that the inability to delegate is one of the number one reasons why managers fail. And so, despite the ongoing efforts of managers, you can't do everything by yourself. And moreover, if you could, it isn't the most efficient and effective use of your time in the role that you're in now. So learn who you can trust to delegate things to, who you should be delegating things to, and just make sure you're using that effectively. Failing to communicate. We've been talking about communication, and that's really important, but I think, that listening piece is so important, and visibility and having time for your people. One of the biggest things that I've seen, especially in this time of, really just that I want it now, and we multitask, and there's so much that we have to do every day. There's not great active listening. So stop what you're doing, make eye contact, put phone down, turn away from your computer, whatever you need to do to make sure somebody has your attention and you're truly listening as a manager. Because if you're not, you're missing out on a lot of things that your employee is telling you that they need, or giving you information or insight to the job that they're doing. And so again, super, super important. That visibility, important, making time for employees. So, if you don't have time scheduled for one-on-ones, make time to do that informally, or make formal time, especially if you are working virtually, to have one-on-one conversations. And it might not be a coaching session per se to talk about goals or our expectations, but just how are you doing? Really, how are you doing? How's the work? How's the job? What can I do for you? Is there anything that you need from me? Ask some of those open-ended questions to get them really thinking about what you can help with. Give people praise and reward for their achievements. And when I say reward, it doesn't have to be a monetary incentive or anything like that, but, give people kudos when it's deserved. Praise goes a really long way, but make sure and be specific about your praise, because if you just say, hey, Kim, you did such a great job today, I really appreciate all your hard work. That's great. I'm glad to know that she thinks I worked hard today, but what did I do a good job at? I did 30 different things today. What specifically did I do well? I really need to know what that specific thing is in order to feel truly valued. Failing to learn, I think this one, we all will be making mistakes, but if we're continually making the same mistake over and over, obviously we're failing to learn from those situations. And so we really need to make sure and sit back and really kind of acknowledge when a mistake is made and learn from it and know what we're going to do differently going forward next time. I love this one. Resisting to change. When it comes to leadership and taking on a new role, sometimes you think you're protecting your people because nobody wants to change, but change isn't always bad. Change can be really good, and we just have to understand the change, but not just the process of change, but what the result will be for us to our benefit. What are we going to get from this? And be able to share that with our teams in a way that they understand really what is necessary. Quick fix. This is one of the last ones when it comes to what we're doing. I don't want to just say okay to somebody's request because I don't have time to discuss it in further right now. I need to make sure and understand things well and take the time necessary to deal with the situation. And then our last one, taking it all too seriously. Now, of course, business is serious business, but we need to be able to enjoy ourselves at work. We need to have fun. We need to develop great working relationships. And, it's not just going to be better for you, but for your teams as well. If, you're able to foster a sense of humor, an environment that not just allows, the work to be done, but there to be a good and sometimes fun environment where people are comfortable and they enjoy coming to work. So tons of information, and I know that's a lot, but here's some really great resources for you guys. The 1 Minute Manager, First Break All the Rules, and From Bud to Boss. And so those are some great things if you're a new manager to really kind of help you on your way. But for anybody that does need extra support, again, Best Care is here as a resource. Our website is a really awesome thing to utilize, and at bestcareeap.org is where you can find any of those recorded webinars that I mentioned. If you just go under our About section, that is under our COVID-19 resources. And so I know I pushed my time right up to the very limit, and I know people have busy days to get on to, but I just wanted to kind of close and share that it's not easy to have a transition that you may be going through or somebody else that you're working with is going through. So give yourself grace. Hopefully you found a few of these things helpful, but really kind of open it up to any questions right now. If anybody has anything that they'd like to add or comment on, or just throw a question out there about.
Thank you so much, Kim. This was extremely helpful information. I know people will get a lot out of it. Kim and I will stay on for just another minute or two and take any questions. So feel free to send those in if you still have them. We did record, so I will email that out to everyone after. And keep an eye on NAM's training calendar. We have 3 more sessions with our partners at EAP coming up in the next few months, as well as all of those wonderful on-demand services they provide. I did pop in the chat there the link to information about NAM's partnership with EAP if members are interested in learning more of all the services they can provide. And you get that at a discounted rate by being a NAM member. And feel free to email me as well if you have any specific questions about our partnership.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Abby. Thanks, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. I'm seeing lots of thanks come through the chat. If any questions do come up after or you're watching, just let me know and I can connect with Kim and her team to get those answered, to get you resources you need. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.